Chapter 25 Cabinet Committee. India's political system is correctly described as cabinet government. Yet, while the Council of the Minister has constitutional status, the cabinet does not get a mention in the constitution. Accordingly, its powers are defined by the convention and usage. Theoretically, the full executive is the council of the minister. However, in reality, cabinet is more important, influential, and powerful than the full council. The latter met rarely. The cabinet meet frequently. The cabinet minister accept responsibility for the department act because in the system of the cabinet government they are expected and required to exercise firm control over the bureaucracy. The function of the cabinet are mainly three according to the Haldane Committee on the Machinery of Government, Great Britain 1918. First, determinant of policy of the government to be submitted to parliament. Second, supreme control of the executive, and the third, the coordination and the coordination of the several departments of the state and delimitation of their authority. Advantage of the cabinet committees are basically are organizational devices for increasingly the output of of any busy and overloaded agency. It is essential no more than a method of getting more specialized and larger volume of work performed by any existing organization. The British cabinet has been making increasingly extended use of the committee. Morrison's observe this device enables ministers to bargain the and compromise with each other and thus reduce pressure of work upon the cabinet. Consequently, the cabinet is left free to devote itself to more important matter. However, with the exception of a few important committees, most other cabinet committee before 1938 was appointed on ad hoc basic. Since 1945, the number and scope of the standing cabinet committee has been greatly extended. In the transitions of the cabinet business committee system has been founded to be immense useful. Its major advantage are: first, the committee of the cabinet save the time of the cabinet because the issue and discussed in this committee in detail and only key issues are brought out for the decision of the cabinet. Thus it make the task of the cabinet much easier. Secondly, the committee system safeguard the principle of the collective responsibility, which is a basic feature of the cabinet system. The cabinet, including first number of the minister and those who are not member of the cabinet, did not participate in its meetings, hence not able to take part in the decision making process, but they are collectively responsible for such decisions such as ministers can be included in the cabinet committee. Thirdly, these committee can also act as collective check on individual ministers and on prime minister too. Fourthly, the cabinet committee focus supra ministry attention on particular sector of administration sort of the cabinet level consideration and the prime minister intervention. These committee facilitated the interdepartmental coordination by enabling the ministers to bargain and compromise with each other and reducing the pressure of work on cabinet. Professor G.W. Jones has rightly observed that it is the cabinet committee that have saved the cabinet system of the government, which would otherwise have clumbed under between the official and non-official in the participatory situation in policy administration in a parliamentary democracy. Evolution of the cabinet committee in India at the eve of independence. Apart from the ad hoc committee, there were only two standing committee of the cabinet existing in 1948. Those were defense committee and economic committee. The defense committee was set up in 1947 and consisted of 5 to 6 members. members. The Economic Committee was created soon after the consisted of the six members. In July 1948, the cabinet requested N. Gopalaswamy, INR minister without a portfolio, to report on the reorganization of the machinery of the central government. Um, in his report submitted in 1949, Ayanagar, among other things, focused attention on the cabinet committee, the need of for them, their numbers, composition, and functions in view of the growth and complexity of the public business. The Iyengar committee, the Iyengar committee suggested that there should be a proper division of the labor and effective delegation within the committee cabinet. This proposed delegation was sought to the achieved by the establishment of committee of cabinet to perform such functions as were developed on them by cabinet. The Iyengar committee recognized the importance and position of the cabinet committee. It also rationalized their composition and established on the permanent basis the system of delegation, of which had already been growing as matter of necessity. A distinction was, however, drawn between standing committee of the cabinet, which were a permanent nature, and ad hoc committee which were to be appointed from time to time to meet temporary needed. It was emphasized that the provision should be made for adequate secretariat and the subcommittee organization to tend support to the standing committee, which were to be guided by the such procedures as were laid down in the rules of business. It was proposed that the prime minister should be ex officio member and chairman of the all standing committee, and that there should be a vice chairman for the each a person who would normally presides over meetings in the absence of the prime minister. The number of the standing committee recommended was four, namely the Defense Committee, the Economic Committee, the Administrative Organization Committee, and the Parliament and the Legal Affair Committee. In 1950, the Cabinet approved the establishment of the four standing committee and appointment committee. However, came in place an Administrative Organization Committee, which was recognized as the one of the ad hoc committee. In addition to the Rehabilitation Committee, the Appointment Committee consists of the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, and the minister or ministers concerned administratively. In 1957, the entire structure of the cabinet committee was reorganized. Five existing standing committee were abolished. There three ad hoc committee dealing with the transient matter were formed, and 10 new standing committees were set up on the economic affairs, heavy industry, defense, foreign affairs, rehabilitation, scientific matter, parliamentary and legal affairs, information and broadcasting, and appointment. In 1958, Ashok Chanda, the first CNG of India, submitted a critical note to the cabinet about the working of the cabinet committee and observed first there was a wide variations in the strength of the various standing committee. The appointment committee has only two members, while the heavy industry committee has a 12 members. Secondly, the prime minister was a chairman of the all cabinet committees, thus making it difficult for cabinet to play the role of revisionary authority. Thirdly, the cabinet committee did not always include as a member only ministers concerned with their subject matters. The 10 was appointed member no on personal consideration. This rendered these committees less effective for quick actions. No adequate attention was paid to the recommendations of Ashok Chanda. However, an important committee was set up in the wake of the Chinese invasion in 1962, the Emergence Committee of the Cabinet. It consists of the Prime Minister as the chairman, Finance, Home and Defense Minister. In course of time, this committee gathered much power and prestige, and in fact become the inner cabinet to which all important matters, internal and external, were referred for decision. According to Brichos, during the last year and the half of the Nehru region, This committee virtually replaced the cabinet as a supreme decision-making body in the government of India. It may be recalled that it was this committee which, at the time of the demise of the Nehru suggestions of the president, the appointment of the Nanda as a prime minister, the study team of the ARC did not find the working of the cabinet committee satisfactory and observed first some of the committee have hitherto not been meeting regularly. Second, most of the committee are loaded with the cabinet ministers. Third, the subject covered by the committee in the existence today range from the most important emergency and economic coordination to the almost rival location of the office in Delhi. After examining the various recommendations of the study team, the Administrative Reforms Commission, in its reports of the September 1969, recommended first there should be 11 standing committee, one each of the defense, foreign affairs, economic affairs, parliamentary affairs and public relations, food and rural development, transport, tourism and communication, commerce, industry and the design, social services, internal affairs, administration and appointment. The second, membership of the each committee should not be normally exceeded six and should included all ministers in charge of the subject covered by the committee. Every standing committee should be supported by a committee of the secretaries, which will considered in advance all matters to be taken up by the cabinet committee. Fourth, ad hoc committee should be retained, which should be confined to mere investigation and not a decision making. The union government has not accepted the recommendation of the ARC. However, it was kept in a view while constituting these committees during the year 1947 in 1970, sorry, मैंने गलत बोल दिया यहाँ पे, the year 1974. In 1974, the number of the cabinet committee was 12. The committee of the political affairs was the most prestigious and took precedence over the remaining committees. All the important matters related to defense, foreign affairs, and political were referred to this committee for decision. Today, the involvement of the number of ministers in decision making are increased. Presently, following cabinet committee are in Ogu. First committee, Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs, Cabinet Committee on Security, Cabinet Committee on Natural Affairs, Cabinet Committee of Parliament Affairs, Cabinet Committee on Appointment, Cabinet Committee on Accommodations, Cabinet Committee on Disinvestment, Cabinet Committee on Drug Abuse Control, Cabinet Committee on Price, Cabinet Committee on WTO, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, Cabinet Committee on Trade and Investment, Cabinet Committee on Expenditure, Cabinet Committee on Infrastructure. Support to the cabinet committee. The secretarial assistance provided by the cabinet secretary to the cabinet and the cabinet committee included first convening of the committee convening of the meeting of the cabinet on the order to the prime minister. Second, the preparation and circulation of agenda. Third, circulation paper related to the cases of on the agenda. Fourth, preparing a record of discussion taking. Fifth, circulation of the record after obtaining the approval of the prime minister. Sixth, the watching implementations of the decision taken by the cabinet. Briefly, the cabinet constitution, the apex of the government hierarchically and efficiency of the cabinet indeed hinges on the effective functioning of the cabinet committee. A small number of persons working as a well not body will not doubt be able to dispose of business with expedition and efficiency and will minimize the need for the coordinating device. I hope you understand this chapter.